did some sightseeing and, looking out over the lake, it wasn't as clear as normal by a long stretch. It was pretty hazy.
All right. Looks like we have a quorum and we have 10 o'clock. Let's call to order and stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. They want us to do a little moment too. It actually says moment of silence or a silent prayer. Great. Roll call, please.
Chairman Christensen,
Present.
Road Commissioner Greenan,
Here.
Commissioner Ross. Here. Member Thompson,
Here.
Member Warner.
Here.
All present.
Thanks, Allison. So let's take a squint at the agenda and see if there's anything that we need to add to it or not. If not, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move we approve the agenda as shown.
Support.
Motion and support. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same. We have an agenda. Oh, thank you. Brings us to public comment. Is there any public comment?
I'm John Popa from Bingham. On your proposed bylaws, there's something real simple there that I've seen before. You've got a secretary and treasurer, and then it comes to chairman. Some people just write it as chair. Just a simple thing.
Thank you.
It works because you don't know who's going to be in the seat. But if you want to print everything out as chair, vice chair, that can be corrected simply. And you know I have information on all this stuff, so if there's any time you want me to participate in a discussion on some of this stuff, I'm willing to do it. One big item, though, it's gonna get stinky, has to do with this level of the lake and where we record it. And there's a lot of rumblings. They gave us a chance last fall to correct stuff, and I think we're on the right path. However, you can read all that stuff on your computer. And there's real good controllers that we put in there. We put a camera in there, and that can be done remotely. Glen Lake, they look at theirs daily, and we have someone assigned to look at it daily. You can look at that gauge. We surveyed the gauge, and it's right on. We surveyed the sensor, and it's right on. And if I have to do it daily, I'll go to my computer and turn the camera on. I'll raise the gate and do some paperwork and let that thing settle out. And you can read that gauge, and it's right on with the sensor. And that's something can be done daily. And we got the camera, we got the controller, we got the computers, and we got it remotely. And any one of you people can look at it, but you all don't have the access to operate it. And I think that's hooked up. I know the controller was set to do it, and I think it can be operated remotely. Whether Jerry has done it a few times over holidays and stuff or storms, I don't know. But if you lift that gate, that river will settle out in a matter of, depending on how much water flow is going through it, but it'll settle out. Right now, the dam and the Narrows are just about right on. And you lift that gate and it'll settle out in a matter of hours. And so there's a lot of rumbling, and if you don't do it, they're gonna come to the board and it's not gonna do it. So I think it can be done. One Lake does it, and so do others.
Thank you.
Thanks, John. Okay. Any other public comment? Seeing none, move on to action items. Just a comment, before we move in, the camera in the control room is going to be moved slightly to give better view for Jerry. I'm not sure if that's scheduled in yet, but that's on the books to do with the current setting for court order. It's just partially obscured by, at times, by one of the arms for the ram. So that's going to
There's a
get,
camera and a control room, is there a camera that looks at the water?
yep, both. There's two cameras. Yep. So anyway, the sensor readings, the sensor reading at the Narrows and the dam are both in the red area. Could, you know, if you haven't looked, they're not quite midway, but well into the court-ordered area.
Yep. So
we are carrying 2.5 extra inches like we said we were going to do in the system this year. So first item, approval of meeting minutes. April 26th, our organizational. We'll take a couple of minutes to look at them if you want. I'd entertain a motion when you're ready.
I'll move we accept the April 26th regular session meetings as shown.
Support?
Motion and support. Anybody find a glitch there, or comments or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. We passed it. All right. Let's take a peek at the May 3rd regular session minutes. I entertain a motion.
I'll move to accept the May 3rd, 2023 Leland Dam Authority minutes.
I'll second that.
We have a motion, we have support. Discussion, anybody seeing a glitch or comment there? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. We passed. Okay, we've got, the minutes are in the books. We have set meeting dates, kind of hand in glove with that of the bylaws. The bylaws mandate at least a quarterly meeting. And we've already met several times. So page 16 of the packet has the potential timeframes for meetings.
with some blanks.
Mr. Chairman, if you pass your bylaws, one of the clauses state at least quarterly meetings, that's why I put the very beginning there. And if you set your schedule, you can always add to it. But for now, it's set up, it also includes the executive committee meetings to discuss your budget for fiscal year 2020. So if you're comfortable in setting at least a consistent time that you're going to be meeting, maybe everyone plans for the dates.
Yeah, I suppose this would be the time to look at the bylaws too and do a pass or not pass or whatever we're gonna do with them.
Mr. Chairman, you should probably recommend them to the board for approval.
Oh, I see.
And then the county board will approve those bylaws in
Okay. So let's take a look at the bylaws to start, and then we can round it out by picking some dates for meetings.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I have a comment on the bylaws under section 5.2 committees, in speaking about the executive committee. It says part of the responsibilities include the review of monthly agenda and monthly meeting minutes. Since we're only, we'll have regular meetings scheduled quarterly, I'm suggesting that we change that to quarterly agendas and quarterly meeting minutes. If we do have special meetings, then, we certainly can prepare the agendas and the minutes for those. But I think by having that statement in there, it's by inference, we're saying we're going to have monthly meetings and we're not required to have that.
Mhm.
So, conducts budget preparation, provides general oversight, including review of Scratch Monthly.
Yeah.
Agendas and Scratch Monthly again, meeting minutes. Any other tweaks to the bylaws that we need to make in your estimation? It's discussion purpose, and then we can move to vote to pass at a later time in a few minutes here. One thing I thought was interesting was the quorum section. Quorum is 50% plus one, and they have 4 members here. And it's kind of interesting, but I'm just thinking too, with what Garth was just referring to. There we go. If we have an executive committee of 3 people, then if our quorum is 3, that would be an official meeting, but I'm not sure that that's a problem.
It would be.
If we have an executive committee meeting, it'll be posted anyway. So quorum or no quorum, but as far as the quorum goes, on any given date, if we're holding ourselves to a higher standard, it makes it harder to have a meeting. We can't have a meeting without a quorum. So, I think we should take a look at the quorum, and I would recommend going to 3 instead of the 4.
Well, you said quorum is 50% plus
That's
1.
fine. You could just state that should the case occur in the future that this committee gets expanded for some reason, the county commission could do that. So if we just say 50% plus 1, then we're okay, even if they appointed another member to the dam committee, 6 people, then it would be 4.
So 50% is
2.5.
2.5 plus 1 is 3.5.
So we have to make a decision, it's either 3 or 4.
I would
And you want
I
to
would
say 3, and
I
you want to
think,
say
you know,
4.
because we can't deal with half people, half persons.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to confirm that with council and we're good?
So delay our discussion for another meeting,
And council review and approval?
so we can change it to 3 pending council review.
Yes.
I assume that's what we do anyway.
Whatever they tell us, then we make the change.
Yeah. I'm not gonna argue with council, at least not too vigorously.
Chairman, I wonder why we can't just keep it at 4. I mean, we only are 5 people, and I just think a quorum, 50% plus 1 would make it really 4. We can't hold ourselves to that, you don't think? I mean, we're not meeting that often, so, I don't know.
Well, I was just thinking
I
of,
hate to delay this again for county council just for
well,
one.
I mean, they're gonna review it anyway, because we've already tweaked it.
So we could go ahead and approve it with that, pending that.
Yeah, we already tweaked it a bit, it's gonna be pending council approval anyway, being because we tweaked it already once.
I feel strongly that we were all appointed to this board for certain strengths or, to be a cohesive board. And I think asking that 4 of us be present in order to have a quorum is in keeping with the thinking of this group. So I think if only 3 of us were here, we'd be missing some really important voices. And I don't know if we should be making decisions without a quorum, a full quorum of 4. That's just my point.
We do make every effort to stay community. That goes without saying, we try to schedule meetings so that everyone.
Yeah. But if you want to go with 3, I'm okay with that, but my gut feeling tells me 4 is important for some reason.
I like 4. I like 4. I don't think I'll have a problem.
Getting to meetings?
Yeah.
What happens if somebody is totally unavailable, they're sick, heaven forbid they pass away?
That'd be hopefully just one
Well, if there's a
person.
pass away, we get reappointed. There's an appointment process that the county can go through.
And replace immediately?
Well,
Okay.
It's probably a 2-month thing or something like that.
Well, they look over candidates and they would pass an appointment during one of their regular meeting sessions. And then that person would fill any vacancies for that vacancy.
Yeah, I think moving forward, when we get to the setting the meeting dates, we can be careful with that, and then at each meeting, if every member is looking forward to the next meeting and sees a situation where they can't be here, then that alerts us, and we could jockey our meetings. We can meet as many times as we want. We can take that quarterly meeting, scratch it, and move it to such and such a date if we need to. So we have that ability, so I'm feeling better about it.
Okay.
Kind of seems like that's consensus. Anything else in the bylaws that stands out?
Have we figured out the per diem question? I think this is actually a question for Deb. Sorry, administrator.
Okay, so in regards to the per diem,
Yeah.
that would be approved at the June board meeting in terms of the board's decision to move forward.
So-
with expenses. I believe at this point, it is scheduled for, there's been so many changes, I apologize, to the structure, but I believe that this, the Dam Authority is going to approve or is pending. It is pending, because this is a restructuring of this, so it has to be approved.
Okay.
believe it's been recommended.
Okay. The meeting dates is not part of the bylaws, so I would entertain a motion with respect to bylaws.
I'll move that the Leland Dam Authority approve the bylaws for 2023, are they? Let's see.
You should really recommend, the Leland Dam Authority recommends to the
Okay.
County Board of Commissioners approval of the proposed bylaws as correctly amended, because we did make one slight correction.
Pending legal counsel.
So do I need to say that, or you got it?
I have,
Just say so
And it
moved.
sends back to council who concurred to go stay with four, right? So it really
Yes.
doesn't need to go back to council.
The chairperson, though, that we wanted a little,
Well, it's been tweaked. We
Yeah, the
changed
tweaks, yeah.
something. We scratched monthly.
monthly, and then
It
the,
doesn't have to go to council for that.
Doesn't have to go back to council then.
No, not for changing, eliminating monthly.
I'm all up for that.
we'll just
So
do
we
as amended.
scratched pending council.
Okay.
So we have a motion
I'll second.
and we have support.
Was that Green?
Green.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same. We have bylaws. Okay, that gets us to the meeting schedule. So. We're looking at June.
Chairman, in yellow on the top, it says first Wednesday of the month.
And
So,
it's highlighted in yellow because whatever you decide to do consistently, I will modify that to reflect that.
okay.
I can't do the first of the month in June.
That'd be just a week away, so, right,
If there's a date on everyone's respective schedules that works consistently moving forward, like a certain day of the month, that's what we're aiming for.
The second Wednesday of every month works for me
I think,
throughout the year.
I think that would work for me. So,
so you're looking at June 14th?
mhm.
It works for me. July,
June 14th works for me as well.
So going to September,
Is there a time frame that works best for everyone?
10 looks good.
10?
I like
10,
10.
10 works.
10 looks good.
That's fine.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Going to September,
Would be the 13th.
right?
So September 13th?
Department heads.
We'll work around it.
Okay, that works. September 13. And then into December, it's also 13.
We don't have to set a January calendar, however, it's kind of nice to have that whole thing to be a meeting notice, so that you're all set for the beginning of the year.
That'd be January 10th.
You want to hold your budget / executive committee session immediately following that June 14th session?
Yes.
And the same will apply for the organizational, you'll hold that first, and then we'll set it, that's just to set the officer spots and the meeting schedule. It's kind of like a housekeeping meeting. So we'll have it at 10 a.m., and then it usually doesn't last long for organizational, we'll set the following meeting at 10:15. And we always put them in or immediately following whichever's
Sounds good. Steve, what was that January date?
10th.
10th.
So, June 14th, 10 a.m., and then immediately following the executive committee for budget. We can cover some potential items, just kind of briefly in the next, in number 4. And then in June, we can flesh that out and see where we're heading for 024. So, any comments on the
Question, we're not having a meeting in December?
Yes.
December 13th?
Oh, we are having, okay.
September 13, December 13, and then January 10th, and June 14.
And this is just to get you through this year. Once we get into next year, we won't have this something the way we structure last year. Will be okay. This December will be a very busy month for Ed.
Yeah.
Any further discussion on the meeting schedule? If not, I entertain a motion.
I'll move we adopt the schedule as shown, as discussed. How's that?
Support?
Motion and support. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same? Okay. Gets us down to the budget. As it turns out, we do have money in the budget. Laura was rooting around and found some minutes. And to be fair, last year was an interesting year with regard to the accounting department that got generated during the year by the county board. And so as we moved through the budget process, there were some methodologies that had to be adopted so that we could get through it. And one of them was a meeting that discussed items where it wasn't necessary for me to be there. And they approved the monies. However, it didn't make it to the paper version. So it was approved. So the money that was requested for this budget year, $66,600 was approved. So we have that money. Which is good. And it was broken down. We had a quote for walkway decking replacement. And that quote was for 38.8. We bumped it by 20% to get to 46.6. And then we did a roof repair guesstimate at 20,000. So that's how we ended up with 66.6. So, good news, we have money.
Good work.
Thank you, Laurel. Deb called, and oh Jesus, what's gonna happen now? Whenever Deb calls, it's like, ooh, okay, I'm gonna answer and let's get through this. And and I've got some good news. Laurel, you can speak now. And we have money. It was great. That was a great call. That made my day. So that's that. And as far as moving forward, these two items were high on the list. There are some maintenance things like moving the camera. That would be maintenance. There are some maintenance things that are going to happen that are really small. As far as larger ticket items, we've kind of clicked through them and we've gotten to the two that I just mentioned, and I'm not sure if there's a big ticket item that we'll be looking at the following year or not. John's got some, that info, John, we put together for the commissioners. It was like a 20-year look-see.
Yeah, we still have that.
If you could get that to me, then I could, or to Rick, and then we could get it in front of us for the next meeting. We can take a look at the long view and chat and then generate ideas for the executive committee immediately following the meeting to do the budget for the following year. Then the packet will come out, and that'll give the executive committee the ability to put those words and numbers into the packet, and that gets delivered back to the accounting department, and it moves through the process. It starts in June, it moves through, and in October-ish, they approve it. It gets approved in the process that way. So anyway.
Mr. Chairman, once the executive committee develops the budget, does that have to come back to the authority in total in order to send it to the county commission?
I think the authority would probably give the executive committee the power to go ahead and do it and get the packet done and turn it in, rather than having another meeting.
Yeah, the only other way we could do it is if we had the executive committee meet prior to the dam authority meeting.
Yeah, but we need to discuss the ins and outs first. And I think pretty much what happens is executive committees get the authority to go ahead and do something. The body gives enough hooks and direction that the executive committee is bound by certain, it's not a free-for-all. They just need to follow through and get it done, kind of thing.
Okay.
If the process, it does carry through the year, so say the executive committee gets stuck for whatever reason, it could go another month. I mean, I get my hand slapped, but that's no biggie. But we go another month. We could schedule a meeting. I could schedule a special meeting and we go back. If something comes up and something happens and Jerry's something, we need to meet. We need to meet again. We can do that.
Okay.
Chairman, a question about the timing on these two projects. The weather certainly is a factor. What time of the year can we reasonably do either or both projects?
That's a great question. We do have, in the next item, we have the roof and the walkway listed. I think, why don't we defer that discussion to the item 5? That's exactly where we're headed.
Okay.
Any other discussion about budget at this time? If not, let's move to 5. continue review of Leland Dam engaged sites, A, control room roof. And why don't we do A and B together? Walkway, because those are the two items that are in the budget now. I did talk to Rusty yesterday. Rusty Friedel was the project manager to rebuild the dam. Project that took from 2000 to 2006. He worked for Gerace at that point in time. And he did a wonderful job, and he's done a lot. He's bid on everything that we put out since. He's moved to Fisher from Gerace. It's kind of a sidestep. All of his workers that worked directly with him went with him to Fisher. So a lot of loyalty in the group. He's loyal to us and the Leland Dam. It was a real challenging build, and he pulled it off through the winter, on budget, on time, because of him and his group. It's just an exemplary group. But anyway, I talked with him yesterday. He developed a dewatering system for when we have to replace seals, which is probably the number one thing that's on the horizon for the dam as it goes down and out. There are seals along the edges, and then there's a main seal across the bottom too. Eventually those will have to be replaced, and we'll have to dewater. So this dewatering project was designed in the original design of the new dam, and Rusty put together this document as to how we do it, and it takes a dive team. We do have steel posts in the pool building, and we have the angle pieces that need to get installed along the side. So basically, in the bulkhead in front of the dam proper, in that concrete bulkhead are receptacles for the rectangular steel posts that we have. Dive team goes down, cleans off the front, cleans out all of the receptacles, slides the steel posts in, attaches angle iron to the sidewalls. There's a fabric that gets laid down with bags over it, a real thick, heavy rubber type fabric. 2x12 number 2 lumber gets slid into place in each of these pods, if you will. And then as the lumber gets set there, the membrane gets set up against it, and the dive team finishes the wall with the fabric, and then we can drop the dam slowly, and then it dewaters. There's no water by the dam then. And we can do our repairs, and any leaks that are there, the dive team can plug, so to speak. And all of the water will then be going over the manual side. So anyway, he put that together, and there was a discussion at some point about it as to, well, Rusty did this, and should we have an independent engineering firm go over it? So we sent it to Spicer, and Spicer did a report on it and gave it their blessing, along with the caveat using SPF number 2 grade or better lumber during construction. So that was the only caveat that Spicer added, and they went through all of the calculations that they did with regard to it, on top of all the calculations that Rusty did. So anyway, that is the dewatering.
But that's not, what year is that scheduled for? Is there a specific?
John and I were looking at it, and in the 20-year, we had it in once. if I remember right. Twice?
Yeah, what in the watering thing?
How
And the
often do
seals.
we de-water in the next 20 years?
We only had to do once, so that we were gonna inspect that gate and sandblast it or.
And do the seals at the same time?
Right.
Yeah,
And,
so it was once. And that was for maintenance. But it's there in case we need to do a repair also. So this ability to de-water is there. Um,
So sometime within 20 years of the original completion date
We look from now out 20.
okay.
Yeah, John, the board, I think it was 2 years ago, the board was wanting to know whether or not they should be looking at a special assessment with the lake level assessment area. You know, should we as a county be going through that process? And it's happened twice, the patch 40, 50 years ago, and the dam replacement 20 years ago, rebuild. They did a 50-50 split between the county coffers and the riparians. That's how it got paid for. So they were looking at, well, should we be considering that process for the dam, because the contingency money ran out. Because when we built the dam, we put in contingency, so we started with, I don't know, $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 in a contingency fund that we used for our regular maintenance and our expenses to run the dam. And when that ran out, the board was looking at that, what should we do? So John and I put some numbers together along with the Dam Authority and looked out 20 years. And we put one dewatering in to sandblast, paint, seals, anything that we needed to do at that point. So that one is in there for 20 years. And there's some other things that you'll see. We had some hydraulic replacements and rebuilds in there, which is a whole nother topic. There is an engineer that John and Rick are familiar with that lives on the lake that is offering his expertise to look at the hydraulic system. And the whole concept there is the seals and the mechanisms have a lifespan. And we as a dam authority should be looking at, okay, what's the proactive approach to deal with a replacement of the seals and that type of thing? What should be replaced and when should it be replaced? And I always refer to my farming experience. As far as hydraulics are concerned on the farm, I run them until they break. And when they break, we fix them. So that's pretty basic. We don't do that here. County Road Commission is in a different position too. With all their stuff, they're looking ahead. They would rather not be caught with big repairs right when they're using it. You know, that's when the repairs would happen. It doesn't break till you go to use it. So they're ahead of the ballgame there. We should probably be ahead of the ballgame here at the Dam Authority too, because we're using the dam every day.
Yes.
So anyway, I digress to a certain degree, but getting to the walkway, that's how I got on all this. I talked to Rusty. We do not have to do a redesign of the walkway with regard to dewatering. The dive team can do it. I wanted to clear that up with Rusty yesterday because he put the design together. I said, okay, Rusty, can we just replace the wood on the walkway and call it a done deal, or do we have to do a redesign? He said the dive team can do it. We do not have to remove the walkway to do the dewater. So, you know, and we've talked in the Dam Authority about the design of the walkway, and maybe we should have it removable for the dewatering. And Rusty said that's not necessary. You know, so if we went that route, it would be, in my mind, above and beyond what we absolutely need to do. the quote is for replacement. That's what the money is for replacement of the wood. So that's what's in the budget. In
So-
my mind, walkway is here and the roof is down here, you know, as far as what do we need to do when. I'm quite sure Rusty's gonna bid. All of our bids, we do not have to accept the low bid. Replacing the wood on the walkway is gonna be interesting for anybody that wants to do the project. So a group like Rusty's group does this every day. They work around and above and below dams, and they have all the expertise and they have all the materials. So that's going to be a bid that's going to include all of that. And other bids maybe too. I don't know where our bid process is going to go. But if we do have a company like that doing the walkway and that kind of expertise and have them look at the roof at that point in time, maybe we get a different take on a potential fix. You know, maybe there's something more efficient that we could do. Maybe they've seen this and, oh, this will fix it. So I was kind of thinking, let's look at the walkway and then maybe the roof will come later this year or next. I don't know. That was just kind of, I'm just thinking out loud. I'm throwing it out for discussion.
What methodology is included in the 20,000 roof repair? Is it a wooden structure? Is it a rubber coating? Is it some form of concrete?
Once upon a time, we went through a little bit of a, what do we need to do kind of thing, and Jerry had discussions with a group that, you know, thought of a sandwich with a membrane and that type of thing, you know, and recently, we just kind of thought, well, let's just make that roof flat, you know, let's get out our concrete and put a cap on it and seal that. Then we get rid of that pocket. It's tough to get down under there. It's a real tight spot. So Jerry had the idea from his previous experience of discussions that we'd be 15,000 or greater with some kind of a sandwich membrane or concrete kind of it was a rough estimate. And he and I talked and felt that 20,000 would be a good number to put down to as a starting point. We'd go out for bids. We'd have to have an EDS. We'd have to say what we were going to do. And at that point, we could flesh that out and see if that all made sense. But that was the number we came up with for the budget process.
Does that roof have a scupper in it, or is it just discharge over the edges?
I think it's just over the edges. There's not a drain through. It's just over the edges.
It's pretty flat, though.
It is, and there's a step in there.
Yeah.
The step is where the problem is?
Yeah, the step holds water. And it's not, as you were inside, you could see the stain. It's
Yeah.
not like it's drip, drip, drip. It's kind of rearing its ugly head, you know, here's a leak and it's coming at you and it's not gonna go away.
Yeah.
So,
But, I mean, there's lots of companies that do roofing, flat type roofs, and I would think, you know, the roofing is something that you wouldn't have to have specialized dam experience in
oh, true.
to repair you through any, you know, qualified
Oh,
roofing
definitely.
contract to do that, and they could suggest, you know, whether it's a membrane or to put concrete down. They could make recommendations, and we could require a warranty on that as well. So,
Yeah, we'd have to just probably search out a quote, or, you know, get in touch with somebody with the expertise to know what it is we're gonna go out to bid with.
yeah,
We'd have to have, it's gonna be this, this, and this, and this, and then go out to bids with it.
yeah.
So, yeah, I agree. Yeah, we wouldn't necessarily need that person to do it. I was trying to, you know, chicken or egg, what do we do first kind of thing?
I agree that probably the walkway is the higher priority. I was out there this past weekend, and it's pretty rough shape.
There's trippers.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I guess the question is, are we gonna replace it in kind with pressure treated wood? Or do we go to a composite wood? I'm not sure what the answer to that is. But in either case, I guess the other thing is schedule. I mean, this is the busy time of year. Is this something we want to plan to have done after Labor Day when the crowds aren't quite as big there? And so we can start that bid, getting quotes and getting the bidding process, contracting process through the
Down,
county
yeah.
going down. Maybe initiate that at the executive committee meeting we have in June, which is only 2 weeks away.
I don't think there'd be any problem in initiating it now. We can just pull the trigger and go out to bid if we want. We just have to decide what it's gonna be.
Yeah. I was trying to find the minutes from our last regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners, but I believe there was some discussion and a question brought to you and me about contacting Fallen Waters Lodge about some sort of cost sharing. Do you remember that discussion? I think it was in the minutes that I don't know if we promised we would do that, but it was asked of us to pursue that. Am I remembering that correctly? I can't find the minutes, but I feel like this committee or this authority probably should make an attempt to look at that option, to ask if there is any. I think someone was going to check on the agreement that originally was, when that was sold to us for $1, right? Is that? But I don't want to forget that that was brought up at our Board of Commissioners meeting. I think we need to have talked about that and made some sort of discussion item at least. Do you remember, Steve, or am I?
Yeah. Yeah, that was mentioned.
It was mentioned.
Was that a regular meeting or an executive?
It was at our last meeting, I believe, on the 9th, and I just don't, the 16th, I think it was, and I don't have those minutes for some reason yet. But, yeah, Commissioner Lautner was pretty adamant, and I believe another commissioner supported her on the idea that since the majority of the use of that walkway is for or the people staying at the hotel, that there should be at least a conversation there. So I don't know how we go about that. If that's a Steve thing or a chairman thing, or could one of us approach or just, I think we need to delve into the agreement, and I guess I don't know if I've actually seen those documents.
Well, that'll take a little bit of
If
research.
we own it, are we solely responsible to keep it repaired?
I would think that if it's ours, just as any, like a public road, the road commissioner is responsible for maintenance of the roads. It's very difficult to go to somebody who lives on the road and say, now, you share the cost of plowing this road. I would think this is similar unless it's in the original agreement.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, we have to check.
Yeah, and I would think you'd have a hard time knowing where to draw the line with the cove, or for that matter, someone who lives on the lake or right near the river, or
Yeah.
I guess that would be the tricky part to me, is just where do you why would they solely be responsible for a chunk of it and not someone like the Cove who benefits from even just the view of the dam, outside seating and Rick's Cafe, and I would find that tricky unless it's spelled out, like you said, that then.
I just think we need to do our due diligence and figure
that. Yeah.
Figure if we can find some sort of documentation that absolutely negates that path to finding some.
Yeah, that makes
Wasn't
sense.
there also used to be a sign on this that said only people going to Falling Waters? And I didn't see that when we were out there last.
It's gone.
It's gone.
I haven't.
But that used to be yeah. We
Well, I
didn't.
feel like there's just spectators as well, from what I've noticed, there's people that just go up navigate around the back, kind of where we were, and they just go up to look at, they take photos.
Take pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Commissioner Ross, to your point, we will do some research and see if we can find that original document.
Okay.
I would ask that when you're looking at the bridge repair, you can get some recommendation from the company that's doing the engineering for that in terms of the weight limit, so that we can put something on there that states no more than X people and some sort of signage. Liabilities to
Yeah. Yeah. Well, why, the county must have put that sign up originally, right? Yeah. You don't remember? I mean,
No.
it wasn't that long ago, was it? I'm trying to think the last time I saw it up, the sign. But is that something also, maybe this year, until we do get it fixed, do we want to provide some sort of caution, liability thought? That we know it needs to be repaired, we're allowing people to walk across it, if we at least put a sign that said,
At your own risk, kind of.
I don't know, I'm wondering if that would be a smart thing to do, or is it overthinking this?
I'm not sure that posting use at your own risk
Does-
provides any liability protection.
If it's open to the public,
If
then
it's
you
open
have
to the public, the only other thing we can do is close it entirely, and I'm not sure that we need to do that at this point.
It's not that bad, you know, yeah. Okay, just thought we,
Yeah, the original design specs should cover your point. I've got those two, original docs and original design specs. We've got the design specs for the dam. And that was part of it. So, John?
When we built that, we didn't get an agreement from the lodge when we built it. And when the dam was built, the bid came out, and at that time, we didn't include the walkway, and it was like an afterthought as we were revising the bid. Oh, by the way, you're gonna build this dam, can you build a walkway for us across there too? And so the original bid that went out just said a dam, we got it from everybody, and then Rusty drew up the walkway. But we didn't have to sign a special agreement, and it was a walkway for access, it's public, and that's it. We didn't have any signs, if you want to put signs, you can. I was thinking about this.
Do you remember if there were any documents? Did you just say there were no documents? Or we did sign documents? Do you remember?
We revised the bid when we built the dam to go back and include a walkway.
Okay.
When the first bid went out,
So Thomas had to come up with a design for the
and he
walkway.
did, and Rusty did, and he said, oh, I'm gonna be there, and here's the walkway that I'm gonna design, and we looked at it, and he added it to the bid of a lot cheaper than replacing it right now. And I went back and looked at that. If that was my dam, what I would do, we worked with Rusty so close, I don't think I would go out for proposals on this. I think I would go out and ask Rusty, give us a document of replacing this and what it would be and how you go about doing it. And with that piece of paper, doing it, then you can go to the board and just say, hey, we've got a good estimate. We worked with this guy. We actually worked with him when we set up this 10 and 20-year thing. He gave us an estimate then of what it would cost. And to go out and waste a bunch of time with people coming in there and doing it,
Well, we're kind of stuck
we're bound.
with the procedure. But anyway,
you can go get a quote and you can go to the board saying you want a single
Yeah.
quote, just like you do with machine engineering.
if you could, John, do a search and see what kind of docs you've got with regard to the design and build of that walkway, that'd be great. I'll do the same. And I'll look for original docs. There's probably a way we can search county-wide for the original docs of the sale agreement to own the dam. That was the big stumbling block when we started the project is the county administrator did research and saw that we did not own the dam. So we couldn't fix it if we don't own it. We can't put public money into private structures, which they had done 25 years previous, but anyway, he arranged for the county to get ownership of the property in the dam. So, but anyway, John, if you could look and see what you've got on that design spec on that walkway, that'd be great. And then we'll do search for original docs. I have a few papers and we'll
The
do
original
a
document for what?
the design of the walkway, how that came through. Thomas would have had to have designed it. Rusty
Yeah,
built
and it
it.
shows up as drawings on some of those color sheets, but I don't know if the final piece of paper of putting staples in so far and putting this, I don't know.
Can you,
I've seen that, I just
yeah,
think he.
see what you've got, and that'd be great. And I think we gotta move on, John. Anyway, we're on walkway and we're, control room roof. It looks like we can't strike the bell to go out to bids if we don't have that look at the design. Do I have that right?
Yeah, that's what I would,
Because we could.
you have to
we couldn't-
specify something, otherwise you'll have contractors bidding on different things.
Just replacement of what's there, we could see what's there and call for it, but
If you've got designs, what?
we'll have to push it off. Yeah. Is there a way we can bring enough information to the next meeting to possibly be able to go out to bids?
I would hope so. I mean, if we've got the money, let's go.
Yeah, if we, assuming we can find the drawing somewhere, or the sketches or whatever was used for the original construction, I think we could show that and then specify that it's to be replaced in kind, you know, the same specifications that were used originally. And essentially duplicate what's there, but new.
I think that's what that quote was. It was the greenwood, you know, the walmanized.
Yeah, pressure treated.
Yeah, that was what the quote was around. Come ready to discuss whether we're gonna do a replacement of the greenwood or if we're gonna go to something fancy or not. I know on my decking, I added more, like code, I had to add more support because it didn't have the same strength as the walmanized one. I don't know what's out there right now, it's the availability and what, you know, if one of you does research and thinks it's a better way to go, bring all of the structure information with you. If we're going to change, we probably have to have information. If we're going to go out to bids, we have to know that the structure underneath the replacement would be sufficient, or we have to do more underlayment or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah, I would think if we have the original drawings,
That would help.
That should give us the
And you've got
information we
something.
need.
Well, sweet theory, John remembers, John probably has it better than I do. Okay, we're going to be searching for walkway design specs and drawings and some original documents with regard to the purchase of the dam and the walkway usage,
So that we could do this at the next meeting.
so we can have enough information ideally to pull the trigger and go out to bids at the next meeting. Did I miss anything on that? Okay. So in my mind, we're walkway first and see where that lands, and then it'll give us a launching spot for the roof. Okay. Okay, gets us down to item C, staff gauge at the Lake Leelanau Narrows. Jerry didn't show. I tried to catch him this morning and I missed him. He came and left, so I don't know if he's gone today or not. He wasn't there when I came up, so.
He's not here today.
Okay, I kind of thought that, because he just in and out quick and early in the morning. So, I'll open it up for discussion about the staff gauge, the Lake Leelanau Narrows. We peered at it with binoculars, we stood near it. We have survey numbers from a survey last fall. John and I were there with the surveyor, Vicki Brown, and we did two things. We verified the level of the stake at the sensor and the lake level at the sensor at that time of day, and it matched up nicely with the reading of the sensor at that time. So that was a good connect, and then we also took that same reading of the Narrows water level and the level of the staff gauge, and could see the differential. So that we have those numbers from a fall survey.
Well, John, if I remember correctly, you had surveyed in that staff gauge, so we know exactly how much the staff gauge needs to be corrected by, correct?
Correct.
So in my mind, all we need to do is either move the board or put another gauge on top of the existing one at the corrected elevation, and then that'll give us a visual, accurate visual representation of what water level is. With that saying that, in terms of our dam authority, I mean, we are obligated to maintain water levels at the dam, so the gauge at the bridge and also the one at Birch Point really are there only to assist in the operation of the dam.
Checks, they're checks.
They're checks.
Yeah.
So I would say, can you wade out to that gauge station? Is it? So I would say that, you know, if we can get Jerry or if we could purchase another gauge, we could go out there and any one of us could correct it just by placing it at the correct
Guys
elevation.
had a good idea, instead of unbolting that whole thing, and I don't know how far down in the mud it goes. Let's just get another gauge and put,
Well, I think,
screw it right into it.
sure. And with the binocs, we could see that it's a chunky piece of wood that it's attached to, and that wood is attached to a steel beam. So I thought that was a great idea myself, just an overlay. I think Jerry has a new staff gauge.
Yeah, so that, I think it'd just be a matter of putting on the waders and going out there.
Rick and I can take care of that gauge if you want, Rick Brown.
Yeah, we can,
I think that'd be pretty straightforward to do.
yeah. If we can come up with a replacement gauge, we'll go do it. But what's the measurement difference?
Well,
We've got the survey, we've got the survey numbers, and it's to a certain point. So when you're there doing it, I think it's the top of the staff gauge is where the point is, and so you do enough marking accurately so that you know exactly where it's going to end up. And I think with the proper numbers and a new gauge, if you're just careful technicians, it can be within just a real small fraction of an inch.
I can check with Jerry. I've looked at all those gauges down there in the room that they had. Some of them were flimsy plastic ones and stuff. I wasn't that happy with it. I haven't checked with Oman. He might have a back room full. All we need is one that has a 9 on it.
Well, yeah.
And Rick and I can.
Let's see what Jerry has. Ordering a new staff gauge, Jerry has the ability to do that. He's ordered them before, and just have him order it, and when a new one comes in, go ahead and do it. I wouldn't be cobbling something together that's, just get a new gauge and put it there. Jerry can do that in maintenance. He doesn't have to come to the board. It's just a maintenance item. He can order it. Once it's in, you guys can do it. I'm all for that. I'm not sure from the authority side, do we need a motion
if we want it done, I think we need to move on it.
Probably need a motion. I'd accept a motion to have the repair group go ahead and, the volunteer repair group go ahead and replace
With Jerry's assistance?
with
or-
Jerry's assistance. Yeah.
Let's do it.
So do I have a motion?
I'll move that we
Install.
repair the staff gauge at the Lake Leelanau Narrows using volunteer labor.
Second.
I have a motion. I have support. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
John, how soon do you want to do it?
I'll have to get with you. But who's gonna follow the lead on this, walkway?
We're gonna have information coming through, for the next meeting with regard to, hopefully you can find some drawings. I'll look. You're more organized than I am. And we're gonna do a search for the original documents with purchase to see if anything was in the original docs that talks about walkway usage. There might be even maybe Laurel can search the minutes of the,
So you're gonna do this, you're not gonna sign on these other hot shots?
everybody that's interested in the walkway, bring information with them to the next meeting.
We have no documents. I mean, I have no
Well, the whole
access to.
room full of every piece of paper.
Okay, if you need help to
that we
dig
have,
through
it's
boxes,
down in-
I'm on.
And it's in a file, and it says dam stuff, and every once in a while we drag it out. We used to sit under the wall anyway. And you could go through that and see if there's
Yeah.
a print. But I'd start with Jerry, whether there's an actual full-blown construction drawing of that walkway, I don't know. I have never seen one.
Well, if you need help accessing or going through boxes of documents, I'm your volunteer. Better than getting on waiters, maybe.
Right, you could maybe interface with Deb
I will.
and with regard to that search,
Okay.
any help
I will
that
do that.
John was referring to boxes of information that are in the clerk's office. So, anyway. Okay, we're done with staff gauge. Let's move on to gauge off of Birch Point Road.
I spoke with Ken Blackstone. Is it Blackstone or Blackstone?
I'm not sure.
I talked to him on the phone a couple of times. The question at our last meeting was, do we need a contract or an agreement with him? He's a pretty straightforward guy. He said, you're probably not going to die on my property. We don't need an agreement.
Okay.
I said, how old are you? And I said, well, I'm 75. And he said, you've lived this long, you're not going to die on my property. So anyway, that information, he said, just give me a call when you're going to be there. A courtesy call was all he wants. So from that standpoint,
You have his number?
I do. His phone number is area code 530-209-4445.
So can you serve as the contact person and the courtesy call person?
Sure.
Why don't we do it that way, and then if there's ever a situation where you think someone else should be doing that call for whatever reason, you can let one of us know, and they could be the courtesy call person.
Okay.
So there are plans to improve that one or get that operational
That's
again?
what
or-
that's the question.
Yeah.
I didn't hear that.
Well, we're just discussing what to do with
Birch Point.
Birch Point's
Got an
sensor.
outstanding item there, Mr. Chairman, in that we gotta get Vicky there to look at that stick in the water and resurvey it. Because there's such a big difference, you don't know if it's the sensor or did that stick move. And the last two times we checked the stick, it didn't, but our last dam authority meeting in the fall, we said to verify all these, and We want to verify that stake.
Okay, thanks for that
So,
input.
and Rick and I can do that too, but we gotta get a hold of Vicky.
Well, yeah, thanks for the input, and we're gonna discuss it on this side, and, yeah. But thanks for the background.
Yeah.
So we'll have to chat about that amongst ourselves and figure out what we're gonna do, I guess, is the question.
It sounds like to me, since we've got the sensor there, we don't know if it's accurate or not. We need to set a bench point out there so we can measure groundwater against the sensor elevation. And then if the sensor needs to be adjusted to reflect the actual elevation.
I think we should
We
go
can do
forward
that.
with it.
Yeah.
But all the discussion that's going on about lake levels down at the south end, I think we need to be on top of our game as much as we can, right? And have some hard science that's measuring accurately.
Yeah, so, I mean, there'll be some cost involved in getting Vicky, the surveyor, out there to set the benchmark and measure that and the water level against it, and compare that against the sensor. And I don't know if they have to go out in the field to adjust the sensor, if you can do it remotely.
He can adjust it remotely. Yeah. All he needs is the information. We did a hand measure, which is, what we're doing all the time with these levels. I mean, we're looking at a gauge, and you're looking at it, and that's a physical measure. And so all of the staff gauges, Lake Leelanau Narrows and at the dam, it's a physical look-see. The one that's in the control room is an exact height replica of the one that's outside the control room. And Jerry does a look-see. The difference in all of this is that the computer system has a sensor that looks down the tube in the control room to read the level. So that can be adjusted. And in my mind, it's exactly right now. Is it a fuzz different? I don't know. That's something that we could look at. But anyway, taking a tape measure at the stake that's been surveyed, and the water level is a little bit down from the top of the stake. John and I went down there and measured from the top of the stake down to the water. It's again a physical measurement, but you can get pretty darn close. So we took that measurement and relayed that to Cal, thinking we'd recalibrate that right now. I mean, we need to have this thing, it's 5 inches too high, 4.5, 5 inches higher than it should be, for whatever reason. It's drifting or whatever. And so Cal got back to John and said, I don't know if you want to use that today or not. And the reasoning was that with our measurement, him looking at it to readjust it, the level at that point in time would have physically been lower than the level at the Narrows. So the water flows through the Narrows into Leland Dam.
We know that.
So
Water flows down.
he was
We know that.
saying that we might not want to use that one from that day, and for whatever reason. It was a pretty calm day. Maybe a little breeze was, maybe a little pressure was. So the process in my mind, there's two things to do. Have Vicky go down and resurvey it. I mean, she's been there a couple times. I mean, this thing has been surveyed like crazy, but I think we need to start afresh.
Yeah.
We've got people looking at what we're doing, so let's have Vicky go and survey it, so we know for sure, again, what the top of that stake is actually. That's one thing. The second thing is she would measure the lake level at that point in time. Now, if we can get her there on a day when it's dead calm, and there isn't a huge air pressure thing going on, I think we can feel pretty accurately about those numbers.
Yeah, usually, in the mornings, first thing, it's quite calm, or in the evenings. Do you want a motion, do you need a motion for us to retain, to hire Vicky to go out and, I don't remember the names, Leelanau surveying and
Leelanau
land surveying, to go out and survey?
Well, the last go, we dropped
We had a
five,
motion last fall.
we dropped 500, right?
We had a motion last fall,
To do that.
to do that state, but
We were-
snow was starting to blow and it was just before deer season.
We were confident, well, I mean, the last time she did the work, when we were at the Narrows, we spent, what, $500?
Yeah.
We have that money in our budget.
And we can spend it without.
We can spend up to, used to be 2,000. Is it more than that now, Deb?
My understanding is it's still two.
Okay. I'm sure it'll be, I'm dead sure it's gonna be less than $2,000, so I would entertain a motion to, hire Vicky to go ahead and do that. And then we can discuss the nuts and bolts about how that's gonna happen after we decide whether we're gonna do it or not.
I'll make the motion that we hire Leelanau land surveying, to go out and survey and stake Birch Point and the water elevations at the, and submit that information to us so we can give it to Cal and calibrate the sensor.
Also support that?
Okay, we have a motion, we have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, so I'd be all in favor of having Rick and John kind of mother hen this through to get it at the right point in time. I think John's got Vicky on speed dial, or Rick does. And,
I don't, but I'll get a number from John.
maybe kind of a volunteer, small group effort to have that done, if that's okay with the
I think
authority.
it's good.
That way we can coordinate the town day experience, and ideally have the number be somewhat higher than Leelanau Narrows. I don't know. But it is what
It shouldn't be lower.
No.
No,
Well, common sense says that.
unless it's,
But it's a
Yeah.
long lake. Anyway,
Okay.
okay, well, that's good. Okay.
So you're gonna do that though, or who's gonna do that? They're gonna contact
Rick and
Vicky,
John,
okay,
They're gonna go ahead and do that.
okay, good, thank you.
They might rope her through.
if you want me to, that's fine, but I don't need it.
I'll give her a call and we'll figure it out. Is there any particular time, weather condition wise, when we would restrict her? If it's calm in the morning, calm in the evening,
I'd say calm morning. I spray cherry trees and in the evening, it's dead calm on a normal year, about 8 or 9 o'clock. And I'm not so sure Vicky's gonna be wandering around at 8 or 9 o'clock.
with a flashlight.
Early morning, I think, fits her schedule maybe better than that. You'll have to chat with her. She's in a caregiving mode with her husband. So, yeah, at gut level, I'd say, in my estimation, I like morning. You'd have to wait
Well, she's done
for
it
calm.
before, so she knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she'd probably have to dictate that.
Okay. I'll call her. We'll set it up.
Okay,
Great,
perfect,
thanks.
perfect. Okay, I think we're there. Unless I'm missing something, gets us to public comment. Hearing none, seeing none. Commissioner comments.
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
One thing, there was a comment about the weight limit earlier on the walkway, but it just made me think about the roof when we get to that point. If you do fill it with concrete, is there any, we have any specs on how much weight can fill that gap? It was just something that I thought of and I wanted to mention it in case.
Good point.
So I'm not, I don't represent Solon Township, but I've been kind of involved in trying to listen to the concerns of Cedar area residents and their high water levels down there. And last week I attended the paddle with the Leelanau Conservancy. There were about 35 of us who paddled down the Cedar River, and that topic came up quite a bit. So I just think, everybody's talking about the dam is the real answer to giving people relief from high water levels down there. So I just think as an authority, we need to keep abreast of that situation and the demands of, our responsibility to the court order and being sensitive. And then looking at the bigger picture because, the conversations about dredging and all that, I think as a group of appointed people to this authority, we need to make sure that we're speaking with science and trying to, provide information to land residents that are concerned and how our responsibilities are part of maybe, or should be part of the conversation. But we have a person on Amore Road, he's in Centerville Township, in my township, but Steve Hamilton is his name, and he did write a nice article in the letter to the editor, but trying to understand, the problem a little bit more thoroughly. And
With regard to Cedar River.
yeah, just talking about how water really does flow to the low point, like we just talked about, and that's really probably where a lot of this problem is coming up. But, I do want to tell you that Tom Nelson mentioned, the dam is the plug. So we are in a point, we do have control. So I just think it's an awesome responsibility we have as members of this authority. And I just want to make sure that we're listening to those concerns and being sensitive to how our work here is part of the watershed system. So I don't know, has anyone else I've gotten quite a few calls. I mean, so, but I just think, it is, something people are talking about, so,
Ray Pleva called a meeting,
yeah.
and you might want to get in that group.
Oh, I'm definitely on the list.
And were you there?
No, I couldn't make that, but
Maybe
Tom,
you'll be there.
Tom Nelson went, and,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I've had a lot of discussions with Ray over the years, the last several years, and I was part of that group, and it was a good meeting. There was a good representation, and the Conservancy is holding a lot of cards because the Conservancy owns the property where the mouth of the Cedar River goes into the lake, and they're not going to allow any dredging, period. They are into having the natural system evolve naturally. There are remarkably few invasive plants from the lake all the way up through the river to Cedar. It's just remarkable.
And
Like 96% or some crazy thing. So they're real interested in having that be preserved as a Everglades of the North, so to speak. It's an extraordinarily rare thing that's there right now. The meeting revolved around a lot of talk about where the buoys would be to mark, and then a gentleman that lives very close to that entrance and has spent his whole life on the river is going to help with setting the buoys each year because the mouth kind of migrates a little bit to have people be able to navigate with a motor vehicle up Cedar River to Cedar, which is part of what a lot of that group would like to see keep happening. And then the Conservancy side, there's a big group of people that are kayakers and canoers that don't need quite the depth to navigate. On top of all of that, the sediment that comes down, the nutrient that comes down, all of the plant material that lives and dies and decomposes in the system has created mainly plant material. It's that dark muck that's in the bottom of the river, it's at the mouth, and wigglers like it, mayflies love it. That's people harvesting the fish with, you can buy wigglers in a lot of places, but there's so much of that material there that doesn't get flushed into the lake like it did before the dam was built. So it's kind of building up, and it takes more time for the system to flush because of the buildup. One of the big tributaries that comes into the swamp, Cedar Run, goes under, it's a pretty good sized stream, goes under a road or 2 or 3, and gets into the swamp, and that got dammed up by beavers. So instead of having a good flush down through the swamp and the timbers down toward the lake, that got slowed down. So there's a lot of beaver activity, which is in general protected if you have a natural system. So there's a lot of dynamic there, and the long and the short of it is that system's not flushing through to the lake like it used to, and it won't. It's the nature of Mother Nature's, if you have a lake, it fills in with cattails and weeds, and eventually the lake goes away unless there's a strong outlet. And it's on a river system per se. We don't have a real strong outlet right at Cedar, so we're kind of stuck. They're going to try to do motorized as long as they can, and if you keep motorized vehicles going up and down, it does kind of help flush the system a bit. That's kind of the strategy at this point in time.
But they'll also be bringing in invasive species
People talk to me about invasives. I've had a lot of calls at the district. Remember, ash borer was in Indiana. And you well remember that.
It was here before it was in Indiana.
Well, it was in the United States. And people would call me.
Michigan.
They were wondering about emerald ash borer, And I asked them on the call, I said, well, where did it come from? China. So if emerald ash borer started in China and it made it close to Michigan, it's not a question of if, it's just a question of when. So there are all kinds of invasives that are in the state of Michigan in Lake Leelanau.
But we don't want it in the Cedar River Preserve.
It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And you look at what's going on in Glen Lake right now, they get on it and they find them and they roll them out and they don't let them establish. That's what has to happen in the Cedar River system. It's not if, it's when, and get them out. And you have to, and unless you stop all traffic, you're not, even if you did, it's going to happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I just think we need to do our level best to protect a resource that's a gift, that is not replicable in our time. So we need to think about the sustainability of that resource and the health of the whole ecosystem. That's what I'm thinking as authority members, is that it's all related. And I just want, make sure that we're thinking about how it's all related.
And
as
I talk to these people, I tell them we're carrying 2 extra inches of water in the system.
Yeah.
That might help or might not help, I don't know.
I don't know either.
Well, as the dam authority, we're sort of limited in scope in terms of what we can do. We set water levels, we maintain the dam. We're not a watershed council. We can't manage the whole watershed. So, yeah, we need to listen, but in terms of dredging, Victoria Creek or Cedar Creek, whichever you call it, that's outside the scope of our authority. So, certainly there are other entities that do have watershed responsibilities and authorities, and we need to protect everything we can, but as a dam authority, we have to work within our charter of what we're authorized to do. And just for a second, piece of information. The road commission is working with other agencies, looking at Cedar Creek crossings, and some of those hopefully will be improved, removing the culverts, putting in full bank width crossings, so that will help the flow through there.
When's that?
Environmental.
Is there a schedule? Is that,
There's not, well, no, nothing, no schedule yet, but we're having those discussions already with the other agencies. So that is something that is in the docket, and hopefully within the next few years, we can accomplish that.
That was a major topic at the meeting.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
With CRA, you're working there,
What's that?
with Conservation Resource Alliance?
Multiple agencies, just like we're doing on the historical bridges.
Cool. Yeah,
That's my comment.
thanks.
I guess it's always important to listen to the neighborhood, all the people that are involved with the watershed. And if it's nothing more than explaining what our responsibility is and isn't, so they understand the system as best we can describe it.
It's not a question of just pulling the plug. That's what I mean, that's what people, they want it to be that simple, and it's just not, and I
Yeah,
can't.
pull the plug, right.
By court order, we're not allowed
Yeah.
to adjust the levels of the lakes to satisfy people's desires. There is a legal process they can go through if they want to change that. We don't have that authority.
Yeah, great.
Drew?
Good, yeah, like you said, some different dynamics kind of converging, but it's interesting. I'm glad to be a part of it, and I agree, it's important to know how all sides are feeling, and then just do our job that we're required to do.
Yeah. So, excellent. Really appreciate all the comments. That was a very good meeting.
And we have action. We have action.
We're creeping. I would entertain a motion.
I'll move that we adjourn.
I'll second.
I was gonna
We're
say.
Good meeting.
Thank you.